What is up, guys? Disciple here, and today we're reviewing the Zowie EC3-C. It's going to be my full review. Before I get into it, I just wanted to say thanks. My first impressions video got like 2K views, or it's close to it right now, last time I checked. And so I just want to say thank you for that. That's like the most views I've gotten on a video besides this random Valorant video I made that I don't really consider great content, if I'm being honest. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, but let's jump right into it. I just wanted to say thanks. What is up, guys? Disciple here, and today we are finally reviewing the Zowie EC3-C. So a big part of this video is going to be kind of talking about how it's different than the EC2B. But first, I'm just going to get into my opinions on the mouse overall, and that it is very good. And while it is a $70 wired mouse, I think it's worth it because, in my experience, Zowie build quality, this is the example, holds up really well over time. So, first things first, mouse 1 and 2, I think they feel pretty good. They're an upgrade from previous models. We'll call that without making a comparison, I say. They're definitely not the most tactile switches I've ever used. I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, like, I think everything on the Vaxi model lineup is a little bit better, but these aren't bad. I have no complaints about them. I'd quite honestly basically give them, if I just clicked on these and thought of no other context, they're like a 9 out of 10 at least. They just don't bother me at all. The side buttons, they're okay. Definite upgrade as well. There's still some pre and post travel, and that's just what you get from Zowie models, I guess, or that's just always going to be a case with the EC model. I don't know why it is the case, but they worked just fine in game. Absolutely zero complaints. The scroll wheel is my biggest complaint about the mouse. I just had a problem with like jumping when I didn't want to in Counter-Strike, as I used the scroll wheel to jump. Like it was getting stuck in between steps, or like it was almost too easy to actuate because like I click mouse 3 to swap which hand my gun is in. That's a whole other thing. Don't worry about it. But sometimes I would jump while doing that, and it was just like it just seems a little too easy and not quite as tactile as I'd like it to be. So that's a personal preference thing. I think some people will probably really like it. But I like the previous scroll wheel in terms of functionality. Yeah, it sounds horrible, but whatever. But I also think the Vaxi scroll wheels are way better in every way, apart from sound. But I don't really care about that personally, but I know that's going to bother some people, so I feel like it needs to be mentioned. The next thing, the cable. This is hands down, other than shape, I guess, hands down the best feature on this mouse. It is the best stock cable I've ever used. Obviously, you can see my mouse moving just a little bit, but like, this is a paracord that like is like upgraded with just a hair of more rigidness, if that makes sense. So it holds its shape more than like your typical paracord does, but is by far the best stock cable I've ever used. I was trying to think of another mouse that I've used to compare it to, and I don't have one. So I like nothing else I've used, and that includes like Vaxi cables way stiffer, the Viper Mini cable much stiffer, Death Adder cable stiffer. You know, those are just a couple examples, but I really, really love this cable. I put it in the bungee, and I never even thought about it. I literally never thought about it. And so, like, I was kind of thinking about what I was going to talk about this video. I was like, oh, I didn't even think about the cable. I almost forgot about it. So, phenomenal. Can't say enough good things about it. Literally no reason to even upgrade it, in my opinion, unless you want, like, something that's a different color, obviously. But I'm not getting into aesthetics. I think that's irrelevant when we're talking about mouse performance in game. The mouse feet are really good, so they're definitely an upgrade from my EC2B, but like I have the older version, so you know it is what it is. It has the 4 small ones. I do think these feet are better than Vaxi's stock feet, which I also thought were really good. So these are like a step up from that. Not quite as good as like the core pads I have on my MP01S, but still very good. I'm not going to upgrade these. I have no desire to spend even $3 to get better mouse feet. They're almost perfect the way they are, not worth spending a dime to upgrade. So far in my experience. Obviously we'll see how they wear, but you get what I'm saying. I'll maybe buy some when they wear out or whatever. On the bottom, you've got your DPI and polling rate. If you're familiar with Zowie, you know what these do. But you can go in steps of 400, or you've got 4 steps on DPI. It starts at 400, it goes 400, 800, 1600, 3200, I believe. I just leave mine at 400, so whatever. And then polling rate 125, 500, or 1000. I don't know why anyone would not just use 1000. So please, if you buy this mouse, just use 1000. You're welcome. It's got a 3360 sensor. We know all about that sensor. Never had an issue with it ever. It works great, so that's fine with me. Which brings us to the shape and where this really becomes the Ultra EC2B comparison video. It's the shape is excellent. I don't know. It's just really good. So the only thing I have to really go off of is comparing it to like the Outset or the EC2B, but the Outset AX feels like a fuller or like almost a slightly larger EC2B, if that makes sense in terms of how it fills out your hand. And in that same way, like the EC3 is kind of the opposite of that. So it feels like slightly smaller than the EC2B in a lot of ways. So this back edge here, this back half, if you will, it's a lot flatter on the EC3 than it is on the EC2. So like this area here kind of bulges like outward more, so like up and away from the mouse, if that makes sense. So like if I were kind of pretend to draw exaggeratedly compare, if this is flat, then the EC2 kind of does this number here. And so you can kind of see how like it feels like it bulges more. That's like the only way I can really think without literally drawing it in paint, and maybe I'll just stick a picture up here in paint to kind of exaggerate it. But that's basically, this is flat and the EC2B is kind of curved, if that makes sense. So what that really does is you can feel it in your palm right here in this area a whole lot more, or a whole lot less on the EC3 rather. And surprisingly, in something I didn't think it would matter, but you feel it less in this area as well. And so when I'm kind of clawing, right? This is my go-to grip right here. Kind of this claw, you can kind of see it. There it is from the other side. I really feel the mouse a lot less in this area of my hand. So it feels more like I'm clawing it than I'm palming it, which is what I want anyway, because the EC2B always felt a little bigger than I wanted it to be. So this reduces it like almost a perfect amount where it feels just a little bit smaller, which I really, really love personally. So, you know, at the end of the day, I could spend another 5 minutes trying to give you terrible descriptions of how it's different. But basically, they've taken the EC2B, okay, they've cut a couple millimeters off the front, and they've flattened this back hump. And then this flare out back here is a little bit wider, I think, technically. I think it's a few millimeters wider. And the only other shape difference is this semicircle here on the EC3 is shallower, or like less pointy, if you will, than it is on the EC2, which I think makes it interact with your palm better as well. I think that also might be a contributing factor in how it feels in this part of your hand as well, just because, just because of how the mouse is kind of interacting with the base of your palm is going to affect in some ways how it interacts with the rest of your hand. But the question is going to be, is it worth the upgrade? And the answer is, if you were looking for an EC2 that felt a little bit smaller, maybe you've tried something like a Rockcat Cone Pure Ally, for example, or Cone Pure Ultra, the same shape. Those feel smaller than the EC2. I'd say they feel similar in size to the EC3. Obviously, the Cone Pure has a totally different shape, but like, yes, 100,000% worth the upgrade if you're looking for a smaller EC2B. If you weren't necessarily looking for a smaller EC2, or were definitely looking for like a shorter one in terms of height, that's not different really. That's not noticeably different in my opinion, so not worth the upgrade. It's going to be about like if you were looking for maybe a little less palm feel, a little bit shorter of a mouse. I did personally kind of want a little bit shorter in terms of height or depth, right? But that wasn't the most important part to me. The big part was how just kind of bulkier it felt in my palm, and this one really solved that problem for me. So it feels like I have a lot more control with this mouse than I do with the EC2 now, which I still aim really well with the EC2, but I think I objectively aim better with the EC3-C. I don't have the stats to back that up, but I have felt very, very comfortable mechanically in Counter-Strike the last couple weeks since I started using this after, it took me maybe a day to adjust to it, and I felt really, really good about it. So what I'd say is, yes, it's $70 plus shipping or whatever. Hopefully it'll be available on Amazon soon, so maybe you can avoid the shipping. But is it worth the upgrade from the EC2? Yes, if you're looking for that smaller mouse. I give the thing a 9.5 out of 10. It's only a knock of like 0.5 really for the... I think I'm giving every mouse a 9.5 out of 10 these days, but man, it's good. I don't waste my time buying mice. I would give less than probably an 8 to, because I can recognize some things, but the scroll is the only thing I dislike about this mouse. That's literally it. And it's a very minor thing because it's in part on me, but it's just not my preference of scroll wheel type. But yeah, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I will do my best to answer them, even if I have to make another video to answer some of them. But if I can type it out, I'll respond to your comment. But all in all, very much worth the upgrade. Good job, Zowie. Next step, hopefully wireless, though. I'll tell you right now, man, the wire is really, really, really good. I got to give him props for that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Peace.